everybody again, and welcome to Thirsty Thursday. I'm here again, as always, with Raven Creed, and joining us today, friend of the show, is Mr. Tony Kelly. Tony, how are you doing, boy?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Bedlam and Miss Creed. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good man yourself. Pleasure to have you, Tony. Pleasure to have you.
No one has ever addressed me that politely in my life. Thank you.
Well, I don't traditionally address people that politely usually, so I'm making a change as well.
We appreciate it.
Well, we're all making changes. This is the first sober Thirsty Thursday because it's midweek and I got work in the morning, so I'm having a cup of tea and having a couple of monster, and Creedy Pops over there is having a cup of tea as well.
I love the way it's disguised as the fact that that's why, and it's not just out of respect for my sobriety.
Oh,
well, that too, yeah.
Oh, yes, that's it, yeah. That's it, yeah.
We're getting straight in with this.
It's okay.
That's it, yeah.
I don't mind.
That's it. Well, I'm not paying for another logo to say tea with Tony. We'll just have to Thursday brackets. None of us were drinking.
We never explicitly said that we're thirsty for alcoholic beverages. Maybe we're just thirsty for any beverage, no?
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, I don't drink alcohol, but I drink a hell of a lot of this stuff. Monster Energy, by the way, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah, and this week's podcast is sponsored by Monster Energy.
Oh, fuck, imagine that.
Eventually, they'll eventually cop on.
You'll eventually get Monster to sponsor you.
That's what I want. That's all I want.
To be fair, I do think that Monster has the ability to sponsor like fucking 80% of wrestlers worldwide with the amount of fucking Monster that fucking I always see at wrestling shows.
It's incredible.
Do you think it's a growing problem?
I think there's bigger problems out there in the wrestling community than Monster Energy.
Yeah, I will touch on some of those in a few moments.
Are we allowed to touch on those? Am I allowed to give my opinion?
Well, there's only fuck it, well, yeah. I mean, we might as well dive head first into it. The only times I ever drink Monster, by the way, is just once, normally on the way back from wrestling, if I'm either going up to a show to watch it in Dublin or driving back late at night or wrestling up the north, and that's a good segue into the North of Ireland wrestling, because you need to be awake for a lot of reasons. You need to be awake for not to crash the car. And I have one normally if I'm resting, so, but I genuinely don't drink them normally.
I used to drink a lot of energy drinks, but it was too cheap to buy Monster, so I just bought, you know, the like really shitty ones that you can get in Aldi called like Blue Spark or something for like 50 cents.
Shark.
Oh,
Are you dropping shoot bombs already, Raven Creed? Because you know for a fact that's the catering we get at OTT backstage, and those are the energy drinks that we get for free.
Wait, I get free energy drinks backstage in OTT. I was never treated that fucking lovely.
Yes, we do. We get those are the free energy.
Blue Shark.
I wish.
Yeah.
Oh, they just remind me of Jaeger bombs, lads, and I fucking.
I used to when I was like 15 or 16. I used to be like just open it and drink it in one like gulp, like one mouthful. But then my heart started hurting, so I stopped doing that.
Yeah, well, that's usually me in the commentary desk in the stadium when I start getting too excited, and I've drank like a 6-pack of them cheap energy drinks and about 4 of these as well. So I feel you.
I always think that wrestlers, they're either addicted to some form of drug, some form of alcohol, or some form of caffeine. So like tea, coffee, or specifically energy drinks. So you picked a nice one.
No, I picked all 3, Raven, but I've only just... I'm currently staying on this one for now.
You're right about that. Like you never see Steve Savage without
energy drink.
Starbucks.
Yeah, always.
Ever with the big Starbucks and the cigarettes, like, you know, on show day or any day.
Well, I mean, the last Phoenix show that I worked on with Michael, I saw him with something else in his hand, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know what it was. Can we edit this out and can you tell me?
No, well, like he was drinking. He had a bottle of Corona in his hand, and myself and Michael had just
something way worse.
Myself and Michael had just defeated Terry Thatcher, I believe it was, under acrimonious circumstances, and Steve took exception to it as a fan in the crowd and tried to square up to me and Michael.
Yeah.
Oh, fucker.
It was just one of the funniest. It was one of the funniest experiences I've genuinely ever had during a wrestling match, for sure. Like
he tried to, I know,
What did you
like-
actually do when he squared up?
Okay, so well, like we had just screwed over Terry Thatcher, and it was pretty hot. There was a lot of heat, and I had Michael. We were at the curtain, and we knew that the camera was right in front of us. So I raised Michael's hand, as you do. It's manager 101, and as we turned to walk back through the curtain, I kind of bump into someone, and I just assume it's a fan, and I'm like, get the fuck out of my way. And it's Steve Savage, and he goes, get the hell back there. And he squares up to me and Michael like that, and I corpsed. I just lost my character. I just started roaring and laughing because it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. It was hilarious.
Yeah, yeah.
It's still real to him.
Oh, good man. It is indeed. Good man, Steve. He's
Love you, Steve.
He's back training out full time. He's in great shape.
Yeah, I love Steve.
And off the drink. Good man, Steve.
Yeah,
Good.
dude.
All around. Come here to me. We can't start because this is Wednesday evening on the 13th, and this is going up tomorrow. So this is
Happy birthday, ma'am. It's my mommy's
This
birthday
is-
today.
Is it? Happy birthday, Mr. Kelly. Oh, it is. I saw that post on Facebook actually.
That's right.
Like, this is pretty current. I mean, normally we record these might be a 2 or 3 week break, but this is pretty current. So it's been a weird fucking it's been a weird since Saturday, we'll say, on the island when it comes to wrestling.
Right.
There's no point in not talking about it for a little bit anyway. Like fucking
Okay.
Northern wrestling. But I say Northern Ireland wrestling. That's harsh because Northern Ireland's like a fucking 6 counties. It's just one particular area, really, one school, and there's a lot of fucking controversy coming out of it. Accusations like that coming out of a fucking it's the fucking pits, like, right?
Yeah, well, look, I didn't know anything about this because I try and like Twitter in particular is toxic. Like I tweet and I look up football news basically on Twitter, and I try not, because it's just there seems to be something new every day that's that's not good.
Pardon for stealing your entire brand, but Twitter kind of wrecks your head, you know?
Yeah, it does. It does, and it hasn't been good for me. And I've kind of learned how to use it sparingly and not have stuff come up that I don't want to see, basically. Like the mute button, the muting terms, the muting, you can mute hashtags, you can mute whatever you want. I've learned about that, and I'm talking about Love Island even. You know what I mean? I don't want to see that shit. So like I honestly had no idea any of this was going on, but I have of course been filled in as to what has allegedly happened, and what do you say?
Yeah, what do you say? It's just it's unfortunate that something so close to all of us, especially going something in a school, which is, you know what I mean, when there's vulnerable people there, people, young people, like same as our school, like, do you know what I mean? And it's just a fucking awful pity that this kind of carry on is going on. Hopefully it's fucking dealt with in the appropriate way, like, and everyone can move on, because there's actually some very good people wrestling up the north of the country.
Absolutely, some lovely people. Like I think the easiest way to put it, and without getting too far into anything, is that anybody who does anything to somebody who's underage and is a child needs to be in jail. And I'm not just specifically talking about that one person. I'm speaking about anybody, because it's not the first time this has popped up, and there's other people out there who've been accused and might be slipping under the radar. And it's very important that people know that if you do anything with someone that's underage, you're a scumbag, I hate you, and you need to be in jail. And that's all I really want to kind of...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Look, we're not going to delve too terribly far into it, but I just hope that the lads that are there and that are remaining in the Northern Ireland wrestling scene can fucking pull it behind them and start a positive scene like we kind of did in Cork, like when there was shit going on. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think what you're saying there, Billy Bedlam, is the right thing. Like we need to kind of maybe focus on what's positive. We all know what's happened that's very negative. We all know the other story that's negative, or stories that's negative. But I'd like there are some really, really nice and good people up there. Like someone like Stephen Carvell comes to mind straight away.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to say that, yeah.
There's a guy who's multi-talented, great guy, really, really nice person, puts in a lot. A family man, deserves better than to be tarred with a brush, because one person doesn't make a scene, 2 people don't make a scene.
Exactly.
And I don't care if it's somebody native to that scene, or if it's somebody crossing the border going up there taking advantage of young people. It shouldn't be happening. Those people need to be weeded out and go forward, like, as you said, Phoenix did with the Cork scene, and be positive, because there is some lovely people up there as well. And I only mentioned Steve. I mean, I'm talking about like Tucker doesn't need to be name dropped. He was in WWE.
Yeah.
People like Myla Grace, Sky James.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many great people up there.
And you know what? They look like they have. They actually look on the outside looking in. I don't know an awful lot of these newer guys that are involved, but I especially don't know. I only see them on the face value. Like Sonic Boom look really exciting. They have a load of young talent coming through. That's the future of Northern Ireland wrestling, not the fucking garbage that we've just discussed in the first, and we won't do it again. But that's the future of Northern Ireland wrestling and wrestling on the island, because they'll be up and down. Do you know what I mean? And they'll get excited and they'll start coming out of that cocoon that is what they were in, do you know what I mean? And work other Fight Factory, Titanic, School of Irish Wrestling, went to seminars and gaining experience, contacts, and eventually, like it'll become. I'm sure, but you know what I mean. Like,
it's a small island with a lot of talented people, but also the island is so small that if you are a scumbag, people are going to find out eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something kind of good about this scene, though, is that it can't, like, everything eventually does get found out. Everything.
It does, yeah.
Hopefully, everything. Anyway.
So Tony, we came across each other in CCW, right? Like I saw, like myself and Raven did. I think I started in CCW or in wrestling. The show after you and Ross in the Savoy. Myself and Tom Buckridge, friend of the show, Tom.
Yeah, Tom. Hi, Tom.
We were watching. We were like, oh my God, there's a scene in Cork. We're like, oh fuck, let's go. And we were going to go to a show, and we didn't go to a show, and we heard about a training school and whatnot.
Yeah.
But you've been in around the Irish Cork scene since fucking day dot, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, 2013, I think. Around that. Yeah, 2013, I would have been around since. I would have said.
I think the
You've been
Savoy
around
was
since pretty much the start of the Cork scene.
the first year anyway.
I think it might have been the second show, maybe the third show actually. For Cork is when Ross brought me in. Like Ross knew I was a huge wrestling fan and was trying to at least somewhat get in the business after a failed attempt at training in Canada when I was younger and got injured and stuff like that. And after kind of having a meeting with the bigger crowds in America and pitching some ideas about being a writer there, because obviously of what I do, I suppose you could call it my shoot job if it is a shoot job, but I do in real life. And me and Ross have been talking about wrestling during some stand-up gigs from years ago, and I kind of didn't really know that much about Ross. Like, he was kind of coy, which wouldn't usually be Ross, but then we got talking, and he did something in Waterford, and I'd heard about it, and we just were talking on Facebook about it. And he goes, you know what, you should be my manager. We should do a kind of a stable thing. And I went, man, I would love that. That sounds amazing. And that was it. Yeah.
What was it? The Prick Click? Was that the? No.
Prick Click, yeah.
Prick Click, yeah, it might have been. I think Lee kind of got. Did he follow with Ross, or did he pour the cold water on it afterwards? Or?
Oh, there was no cold water, because we had huge plans for what we were going to do with the Prick Click thing, and it was I think it was a great angle, and it didn't really work out well because of Ross's shoulder or whatever. And we improvised, and it worked out quite well on the night in the end. At least heat wise, it did, I thought.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I certainly don't like speaking out of turn in case I'm wrong, because I don't like doing that. But I know that Ross and Lee had a falling out. It could have been about money, or maybe he stiffed some of the Dublin lads on a payment, or something. Something happened that Ross had put his neck on the line to get guys booked. Something, I don't know. But Ross basically messaged me one night and said, look, this would have been great, but I'm not working with Lee anymore because of whatever the issue was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was definitely something to do with stiffing a payment or something like that, I think. Like, it wasn't anything major. It was, like, usual wrestling kind of thing. And out of just loyalty, because that's the kind of person that I am, I went, well, you brought me in. If you're not going to work with this guy anymore, I'm not going to work with him anymore. And I took a break for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, it was just before I came in anyway, so I kind of don't really know what went on. But because I'd seen Ross on RT doing his The Fear, was it?
The Fear, yeah.
On wrestling, I was like, fuck this. I was like, right, I want to do this. But then when I got to CCW, he was gone. So I go, I quite like the idea of with Ross.
When I first started training with Ross, one of the first things, again, he obviously didn't give me any fucking details about where he left, but one of the first things he said to me was, oh, the other lads, they're fucking cowboys, basically. So I'm guessing it was something big to do with money, like.
But, like, Raven, were you, because I trained like once or twice in Ross's camps down there, just kind of, I didn't want to walk into a show and go, oh, I'm here now and I'm doing this. So I went and trained went to a couple of sessions with Ross. I don't know if I remember a couple of the boys, because obviously Burnsy was there because me and Burnsy are friends and we're from Waterford.
I don't actually think I was training at the time. Ross was already gone from CCW, like just gone from CCW at the time.
Were you at that show in the Savoy though?
No, I don't think I was, no.
No, because I think the first time I actually met you was when I came back.
Yeah.
Which would have been like a year later, I think.
Yeah, I do think so.
Yeah.
I met you after, I think, was it after or before I debuted? You're coming back and managing Burnsy.
Yeah, I came back to manage. No, I came back to commentate first before I managed Burnsy. That's how me and the linchpin met.
That's right.
But
that was before your debut, Emma. It was 2 shows before.
I'm almost certain I called your debut match, and I always claimed it anyway.
Yeah.
Whether
I always think that, but I wasn't. I'm never actually sure about it because it's fucking nowhere.
It's on his hard drive.
well, that's what I was going to say. To go back to that first show in the what was it? The Savoy, was it?
Savoy,
yeah.
Man, I was in there's no. If anyone's listened to my podcast knows my story. Like I was I had just had a relapse in my recovery, and I was days into kind of drying back out again, and I barely remember that night because I had been, hitting stuff hard, and I was trying to kind of come back to normality. And but I remember, if you look at that now, like, if I can't remember the show really because of obviously what I've been at in my personal life. But I was saying this to Barry the other day, like I remember Be Cool, because I'd never seen comedy or wrestling before. I didn't know that was a thing. So like I remember Barry was the first one out of the curtain, because I was posing as the ring announcer for the night, for the turn at the end. And I remember Be Cool, Fabulous Nikki and Phil Boyd had a triple threat at the start of it. And Barry was doing this comedy stuff, and I was like, this kid is brilliant. He's amazing. And it's so funny, like, when you look at that video now, I think it's still on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, that show.
Yeah, I think it is actually,
But you can see...
Is that the one where Ross dislocates his shoulder on the lockup?
Yeah.
That's really funny. So,
was that shoes, or was
that's
that,
all I wanted to say.
Was that work? That really happened?
No, it wasn't work.
No, that was
really
real.
Happened,
yeah. He
'cause I
locked
was
up
ready.
and he just popped his shoulder.
The plan was that they'd have a match, and Ross would give me the Iggy, and I would cut the turnbuckle off. And people, obviously, we were hoping that people were like, what the hell is this? And then Ross was to pull Bingo into the exposed turnbuckle, knock him out, put him in the chicken wing. Bingo would pass out. We'd steal the belt. Bingo would have to leave because that was part of the angle. And we do this big angle for about a year. And Ross locked up with Bingo and came over to the corner. And bear in mind, I'm still standing there as if, like, with the belt in hand, as if I'm the ring announcer. And Ross just said to me, my shoulder's fucking gone. My shoulder's fucking gone. Go to the finish now. And I do remember that from that night, because I'd never been, that was my first night in wrestling, and I had to improvise a finish.
Jesus, yeah. No.
So, yeah, I do remember that. But what I was saying about was, if you look at on YouTube that night, the amount of people now who are, huge figures in the scene in Ireland, at least, if not internationally, are on the show. And it's really funny to see, like, myself in the ring as a ring announcer, Be Cool, Fabulous Nikki, who's of course part of Club Tropicana now, Katie Harvey, Rough Stuff, of course, CT Flexor is what would you, like, a kind of a force in his own right now. And I ended up managing Rough Stuff in OTT for a while as well. So it's funny how all these things come together. It's really cool.
Was that the infamous hairspray and a pole match, or was that in Waterford?
No, I think that was elsewhere, because Session Mott as Kazuchi wasn't on the show that show that I worked.
Okay.
We should get Katie and Session Mott on just to talk about the hairspray on the pole match, and just do 2 hours talking about that.
I just wish I was there. I don't know. I've heard about it because it gets talked about all the time as a kind of a CCW legacy.
Do you know what's one of the funniest things about that?
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, what's one of the funniest things about that is that Lars Lee didn't have a pole for the
Lars Coulahan's code for Lee.
Yeah, so
what is it?
Jim Money christened him last week, Lars Coulahan. Who's that guy?
Lars Coulahan. Yeah. So he didn't actually have a pole for it, so he just wanted to use the end off of a Hoover.
That sounds like, I mean, you notice it just didn't flinch.
Yeah. It's not news. It's not news.
That sounds pretty realistic. But, like, Fucking
I think
hell.
the last conversation I had with him, I went down to a CCW show at Christmas. You were both there working it. Actually, Bedlam, I managed Barnsley that night, and we
That's right.
did a triple threat against you and Vic
right.
Viper. So that I kind of agree. I said, no way am I doing this. No way am I going down. And Barnes was like, come on. I was only back from America. He was back from Canada. Come on, it'll be a laugh.
Did William give you a spear?
William speared me over the guardrail. I went over the guardrail, took the most theatrical bump over the guardrail anyone's ever taken. It was really funny, actually. I think there's video footage of that out there somewhere, actually.
There is, yeah.
But the last conversation I think I had with Lee was I was in the dressing room in between, because he ran a kids show right before the main show, and which was ridiculous. And he came, I had come to watch and didn't really know if I was going to take part in managing Barnsley or not. And he came in and he goes, Tony, will you tell the kids to get out so we can have the adult show now, bye? And I was there, no, absolutely not. That's nothing to do with me. He was like, well, I'm a heel. I can't go out and tell him. It's just like, what?
I know, yeah.
It's the fucking logic here, like.
You're also the promoter. Go and
Yeah.
tell him.
He lived that bubble. He lived that bubble. But,
Man, so funny, so funny.
yeah, so I remember, I actually do remember you came back you joined us on I think it was one of the Revolutions. It was my last night in commentary. And fucking myself and Tom, I go over to Tom, we'd have a beer or whatever. We watched that show back so many times. Because it's fun, like we had a laugh, me and Tom, when we were in commentary. We were the worst all the time. Let's put my hand up in the air, but that's okay, because I was told to do something I never did before in my life, and also you just don't know the names of wrestling moves. Yeah,
like,
but
didn't you say like
I wouldn't put myself doing it in Phoenix, like.
I know, but you said a hip toss was like something like a Northern Lights or something mad like that, like it wasn't.
I wouldn't know what the Northern Lights is now. To mine back then. No,
exactly. Yeah, I'm like then like.
Everything
was
just thrown into a job DDT and shades of this and shades of gold dust and then modified this and what?
I'll be honest with you. I never, like you're saying, you're the worst comedy team ever. I never thought that. I mean, like, I'm sure there's worse. I'm sure there's worse out there. So
I've commentated once and I'm pretty shit.
Well, you see, there was before you came.
I commentated with you, Tony. Actually, remember?
Did you?
Yeah, there was I commentated on
Phoenix.
For a Phoenix show, and
yeah, I remember.
And I went up to Keane Arthur because he was also commentating, and I was like, oh wow, I was really nervous about that, but I think I did an okay job. And he was like, oh yeah, the commentary got corrupted, so like we couldn't choose it or something.
Well, no, I do remember that, because I remember I was absolutely shitting all over you for doing something, and then I did the old 80s heel commentator move, and I was like, oh, you're so great, and you came over.
Yeah.
I remember that now. Yeah, that was fun.
It was funny.
Yeah. Commentary was fun. I liked doing it. When I was doing it just for me and Tom, it was just private jokes, which was I wouldn't do now because I have a lot more respect for my own business, but for the general. At the time, I wasn't even training, wasn't getting paid, didn't give a fuck. I had invested in CCW, and my money had been fucking gone up to Swanee, so I
didn't know that.
Do you know what I mean? But anyway, it was good. It was
that show though. I remember a couple of things about that show that you're talking about. First of all, I don't know the names of shows, like, and I'm going to say this now, like, I don't know the names of some of the OTT shows. You could say to me, we were at Homecoming, and I'd be like, which one was that? Just tell me the venue and I'll know. Or what the matches were.
I'm kind of the same, yeah.
I am useless at knowing what the names are of the show, so I don't know if it was Revolution or whether it was Lee Cahallan's Big Bad Birthday Bash or whatever. I don't know what they call the shows. But, you know, I'm not going to ask. We're just going to do part 2.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, but all I remember is that Barnsley and Ricky Combat had a tables match. I remember that.
Yeah.
And
I remember this. This is bizarre. Sorry.
Yeah. And I also remember Michael May and Katie against LJ Cleary and Valkyrie.
Yeah.
It was like Michael, maybe not Michael, but it was definitely LJ and Valkyrie. Second
or Phil,
match ever,
maybe Phil.
No, it was. I remember. I think it was Michael. I do think it was.
It was because Michael was using the name Michael Mayhem. At the time.
Yeah.
And every time I cut a promo with him, I want to do something about calling him Michael Mayhem, so that's how I remember.
No, you're right, Jack. They had the best friends club at the time, and Phil was in the opener against Roughshod. That was a hell.
Well, one of my favorite moments that I've been involved in wrestling since 2013, so it's like nearly 7 years, was Raven Creed against Roughshod in front of a load of kids in some place in Cork, God knows where, Ballyfehan maybe, and she
Burn it,
literally,
please.
no, but no, Raven Creed
That one's on
basically
YouTube.
just bet the shit, and is it on YouTube?
That one's on YouTube.
It has over 100,000 views. And I was underaged. And you know where that is.
Look at how shocked I am.
They used to promote intergender wrestling, and it ended up on porn sites and everything. Like,
yeah, it's on a porn site. And I was underage.
Has nearly
Again.
500,000. Like,
no fucking surprise. Like.
I only remember, I didn't even know it was on YouTube, but like I just laughed the whole way through that.
It was such a shit match. Like, all I did was just like kick him in the head.
It was so funny.
So bad.
It was so funny. Like, you just bet him around the place. Basically, it was. I could never listen to the song "Wayward Son" ever again.
No, never again.
Neither can I.
Never again. But you know what? I remember that because, and it was no reflection on fucking Roughshod, really.
No.
You were given instructions to go up and fucking hammer him because he was late or something.
He didn't go training. He didn't go training.
It was something like that from the
I didn't beat him up because of that. I just beat him up because like
you were told to. You were told to do that because of that, which is not really the way to do things either. But anyway.
It was just a funny. It was a funny.
It
was a funny match. It was a funny moment. I just remember it. It stands out to me.
How did you? I have a couple of interview questions, Tony. Right?
Oh, lovely! Please, yeah.
I'm aware that you're a professional. I'm not. So I said I better jot this shit down, and I had to put on my glasses as well because then I can't read what I wrote down, and I feel like an old man putting on and off my glasses. So
just all right.
How did you get
out of your head? Get out of your head. How did I get into what?
How did you get in? How did the OTT relationship come about?
So I'd never been to it. I'd never CCW left a really bad taste in my mouth, and through many different things. And I was kind of like, oh, I like wrestling's fun. It's, whatever. I'd also kind of had a near miss again with an opportunity to go work in America to do with wrestling that kind of fell through on me. And I was kind of gutted about that, to be honest. And I found it hard to kind of even watch wrestling after that. But I managed. And then the year after that, then I was the lead in a movie here in Ireland called Writing Home, and that was a big opportunity for me and kind of brought me up to a different level. And I started getting more opportunities in that realm of what I do. And there was people offering me this and offering me that, and I was like, okay, this is great. But I went off to America. I was hosting this Broadway theater festival on Broadway, which was an amazing opportunity to perform on Broadway. I mean, it was incredible, and just took some time. I wrote my own little radio series while I was over in LA then after that, and I came back and my friend had bought me a ticket to go see OTT in Dublin, and I was like, oh, the Irish wrestling thing, no, he said, no, you have to come. He showed me some video of a show he'd been at. I was like, wow, this is not the Irish wrestling scene as I know it. This is something different. So I went to that December show. It was the one where Cody Rhodes had the infamous run-in with Foxy and stuff like that, apparently. And I just loved it. I just went, wow. And I remember just going, okay, I have to be involved in this. This has got Tony Kelly written all over it. And I saw a couple of things where I was like, okay, I think I know how I could do this. And I was providing a bit of content for the sports website balls.ie for a while. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that chat.
I was doing some video work for them and stuff like that. And occasionally I'd write an article if they needed someone to write an article. So I don't know. I'm not a sports writer. So that's not what I was there to do. So I was like, I'm not going to be writing about, what do you think is going to happen in Liverpool against United next? That's not what I was doing. So I was like, lads, that O'Neill's are supplying sportswear for OTT wrestling? And they were like, what? Because it's a big GAA site. And they were like, write an article about that. So I was like, okay. But in between that, they were like, have you ever interviewed someone and written an article before? And I was like, I'm not a journalist. So no. And they were like, well, what about if you interviewed? And I was like, look, I'm going to interview someone. And I had known Session Moth Martina a little bit from working CCW and stuff like that. But seeing her in action as the Session Moth after seeing her from Kaza G blew my mind. I was just like, this is incredible. And I just texted her on Facebook, I think it was. I was like, listen, I'm doing this little bit of work for Balls.ie. I don't know if you remember me, you know. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, would you be interested if I interviewed you, give you a good bit of publicity? They've got a good following. She was like, yeah, sure. So I wrote an article about her, and then I wrote the article about the gear, advertising the gear, because I thought the fact that they had a deal with O'Neill's was, again, mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And I got an email. I got an email from Joe Cabray saying, listen, thanks for doing that, and would you basically was trying to kind of maybe see was there anything there with Balls.ie to become a regular thing. And at the time I was leaving the company because of promises that weren't kept, and also I don't want to, that's not what I want to do, you know. So we were exchanging emails a little bit, and I was kind of smarting them up, going, well, look, listen, this is not what I'm going to be doing for good, but I'll try and see what I can do. And I said, look, by the way, if there's ever anything I can do on your show, you know, maybe there might be an opportunity for me to come in and manage someone or something like that. And I don't know what happened in between all that. I think he asked a couple of people who might have known me from coming down and working down in Cork what I was like and stuff like that. And he said, look, the commentary spot is open for a while at least. Would you be interested in doing commentary? And to be honest with you, I actually really wasn't. But I knew it was a foot in the door, and I knew I'd done it before, and I was capable of doing it. So I said, sure. So Joe will be he said it on my podcast. He's quite controlling and likes to be hands-on. I mean, Raven, you'll know that, for like everything's got Joe's fingerprints on it. So he said, look, I know you're capable of doing this, but I can't have you appear on camera without doing some sort of a test. So there was talks of me and Angus McAnally sitting down at a computer and calling a match that was recorded. And I really didn't want to do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But he said, look, come up to this Contenders show, call it, but you're not going to make an entrance. I'm not going to introduce you as part of the show. So use this live show as your audition, basically. So I remember sitting at the commentary desk while Angus did the intro, and then basically introduced me on commentary blindly, I guess, without being seen on camera. And that was it, really, I think. I was it. I've not missed a show, I don't think, since, really.
Yeah. It's first time I went up to a Contenders show, I think, just touching on that, and I think I might have said it before, was it was the Armstrongs versus fucking the Angel Cruisers, and Mike Carnley broke down. They barely got there.
Yeah.
It was Terry and Scotty in the main for the NLW belt.
Yeah, it was in Liverpool that weekend.
Yeah. I was just like fucking sitting there going, whoa, like this shows like this is how wrestling should be done. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of as we were thinking, or really strongly thinking about doing Phoenix anyway. So
yeah.
I've been to a few shows, and I must say your no socks chants are one of my favorites. My favorite part of the show. Like, how was that intentional, or probably
that's such a stupid thing, like people chanting no socks, but it's brilliant. Like,
yeah,
no,
know,
exactly. Yeah. Like that's the thing. It's just like, how, like, why did you just like purposely try and find things that you find in other people to be crickets, and then you just copied it?
Here's the thing. Well, here's the thing. Like, so I don't think any of us knew what I was going to be. I remember Joe saying to me, "Do you want to use a work name? Do you want to use a working name?" I was like, "No, like this is my name. I have no problem. You can call me TK if you want, or something like that, because people call me that, or but I should be Tony Kelly. It's just I think it's just easier." Mm-hmm. So he's like, "Okay, that's fine." And I said, like, I think if anyone, he was like, well, you do acting, you do comedy. Do you want that to kind of interfere? And I said, look, if anybody watches wrestling and can't decipher the difference between me as a character on a wrestling show and my stand-up comedy, I don't know what to tell you, So, well, I don't think, like, there was no real, Joe didn't go, well, I want you to be this character. I have this. I basically was thrown out there and told to get over, essentially. And I think it was kind of like, I think it was a challenge in a way. The only people I knew when I went to that first show was, I'm really finding it hard to do the shoot name thing or the work name thing, but it was Raven and Matt Schuyler were there. And I knew Martina as well. But other than that, I didn't know anybody. I'll never forget how intimidating it was walking into that Contenders show for the first time. And it was like that for months, if I can be honest. It was very hard for me to settle there for a while, and I just kept going. And I remember saying to Joe, "Give me 3 shows, and I will get over. Not as my commentary on that, but I'll get these people to hate me if it takes me 3-4 shows. I will do that." I remember coming out to Tivoli and not quite knowing what the gimmick was, but I knew it needed to be me turned up to 11 because that's what it always is. And so I kind of started dressing a little bit flashier, you know, and like I'd wear something I'd go to maybe a wedding in or something like that. But I remember my first stadium show. I wasn't aware that I wasn't going to be calling it until the day before or something like that because it all happened so fast. And I was really, really, okay, fair enough. And I wore, I think I found a pair of chinos in my wardrobe, and I was like, where did I never remember buying them or wearing them. I think I got them in pennies or something like that. And I said, right, I'll wear these. They were red chinos. I still wear them sometimes in the shows, and I had them on me. And I came out, and before I did the bit of the promo, before I kind of was basically removed from the show for that show, they were chanting "Chinos wanker," right? Chinos wanker, and I'm
Yeah.
oh, this is something, but I don't want that to be the thing. So the next show after that was a Tivoli show. And I remember saying to myself, I might have been in the car on the way home, or I could have even been in the dressing room after I was done. If you don't like chinos, what else don't you like? And I think back then to seeing guys who never knew how to dress themselves until Conor McGregor started taking pictures of himself and then they started copying him.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic description.
Yeah.
It's true though, guys that I went to school with who would have worn a tracksuit going out on a Saturday night, now all of a sudden they have a dicky bow on them. I mean, go fuck yourself. Like that kind of thing really bothers me. So I was like, I think I should be that kind of a guy, like who and I remember then looking at some wedding photos of some guys who I know from town. I was like, these guys couldn't dress themselves 2 years ago. Now they're going out with loafers with no socks. Come on, give me a break. And I went, that's what it is. If you don't like chinos, you definitely won't like that. So I remember being up in the I suppose you call it a dressing room, Raven, in the Tivoli upstairs backstage, and putting on the outfit. And I think CT Flexer was beside me. I don't know why. And he was kind of going, that's what you're going to go out wearing? And I was like, yeah, I think this will work. And he went, okay. I think it was CT as far as I remember. And we went into the ring, myself and Jamie Coleman, and to open the show, and they just started laying it on. He was cutting his promo, and they were already on it about the socks.
Yeah.
It wasn't even my turn to talk, and they were already on it. And I knew it would work because I hate it, and I hate people who dress like that. And I looked over at Joe as I had the microphone in my hand, and someone threw a pair of socks into the ring. It was like a really mild version of Cactus Jack and Terry Funk in ECW. And I looked over at Joe as the sock landed on the bottom rope, and I just saw him smile, and I went, "This is it. This is what."
Yeah.
And I think that was my fourth show. I think.
Good stuff. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2. We did a quick comfort break because that's just the way we roll. And we were talking to Tony Kelly about OTT and the no socks and whatnot. Tony, I think I've been watching a lot of 90s wrestling at the moment, right? Since I've allowed my hands like everybody else. I started watching Raw in 1993, then I kind of skipped forward. I watched kind of all the way 93 through.
Brilliant.
Then I skipped forward, skipped 94, skipped 95. Now I start again 96. So I'm watching 96 every week. There's an hour of Raw, and then I'm watching every day. I'm watching Nitro as well. So I'm watching 2 hours of wrestling every night,
Class.
And it's class. And I'm looking forward to. At the moment, Scott Hall is or is it Rise Ramon at the moment, about to leave, and Kevin Nash following and all that. But one thing struck me as I was watching it over the last few weeks. I think I tweeted and tagged you. Wrestling managers. There is especially in Ireland. Is there any bar J Money and yourself in Phoenix and the Fight Factory? Is there anybody else? Bar the odd person that's valeting, because it's something that's it's a dead art as far as I can see, really. But if Jesus, they were so important and so influential back in the day and done right. We all know Heenan, it was just the best. He's the benchmark when it comes to wrestling managers. Like, and I know I'm interested to hear your opinion on it. But it's certainly something that I'd like to see a few more managers in wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like everything else that the decree comes down from the WWE with everything, you know. And if WWE starts doing it, it trickles through the rest of the business. And I think if WWE were still using managers regularly, everyone would be doing them. I mean, like myself and Michael may want to be a full-time act everywhere, and when Michael gets booked in the UK, they just won't. And I get it. Like they won't fly me in as well. Now, my schedule wouldn't always allow me to be full-time or whatever doing wrestling shows abroad, but I would love that. But it's as I said to you, I think from WWE they don't have really full-time managers, so therefore no one else does. Yeah, I think they're hugely beneficial because you have guys who you go, oh well, he's got $1 million look, but he can't talk. Well, put him with someone who can talk then, and then all of a sudden you've got yourself an act.
Yeah,
you know, because I think having an act in wrestling is as important as anything else. And I mean, whether that's a tag team or whether it's a single or whether it's a manager with a single or a manager with a tag team, you know, whatever it is, I think an act is what gets over. Not, we all know that it's not necessarily moves, it's not necessarily a catchphrase, but it's the total package.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a manager who, like a manager, first of all, who has to know who he is, first of all, in order to get his charge or his client or whatever over. And yeah, I don't know who, like, I know that obviously myself, J Money does it in OTT with Michael and Liam and Maxar. And I manage obviously Michael and Liam in Fight Factory as well. But nowadays, I don't know.
Just while it's on top of my head, sorry for cutting you off because I'll forget it. Club Tropicana had a manager the first time I saw them, and it was the first time I'd seen Club Tropicana wrestle, and it was just, I couldn't get over how entertaining that
is, man.
Jose, was that Jose?
Yeah, Jose Idol. Yeah, he was Tony Idol before that, I think. But I don't know. I think he's an actor too. He's a theater actor, as far as I know. And I think he was doing a play or something like that. I don't know because I think the last Tivoli show I ever worked was Tropicana against Rough Stuff with me in Rough Stuff's corner and Jose in the other corner. And that was like so much fun because we did an angle where I ripped off his mustache in the middle of the ring, and he already had a fake mustache thrown on underneath it, and it was like, that's hilarious, man. And he hit me with the glove and all. That was really good. I honestly don't know. I think I heard something about an acting job or something like that. But it was hugely entertaining. But the boys now are much better off without it, I think, to be honest with you. Because like I think Captain is an really, really talented athletic wrestler. Aiden is really good at his role as the Jim the Anvil Neidhart of the team, I suppose. And I think adding Fabulous Nikki to it rather than having Jose is a much better fit for me, because I think now the boys are over, not necessarily Jose is over.
Yeah, no, fair point.
Because I think for me anyway, like I always like to think myself and Michael are over as an acting Cork, and I don't take away from Michael or anything like that. I hope so anyway, and I'm sure he would have told me if he thought I did. Whereas I don't necessarily think Jose did that for Tropicana.
I get you, but as I say, I only saw him the one time. Maybe
it was great.
Maybe it becomes repetitive after a while. I don't know, but I certainly think that Michael as an act is stronger when you're with him in Cork, rather than when there was a scheduled clash. Unfortunately, you couldn't make it in January. Michael's wrestling is phenomenal, but you provide, and when you're together is class in Phoenix, and people love to hate.
Well, I think we see ourselves as a bit of a throwback as well. You know, I was a early '90s wrestling fan, and that's still my favorite era, and managers were such a huge thing. I mean, we spoke about Bobby Heenan obviously, but you know, there were many more. You know, I mean, Jimmy Hart was a huge thing as well, you know. And I don't think Jimmy
Paulo.
Sure, but like I think Jimmy Hart doesn't get the credit he deserves, and Heenan, I mean, was a comedic genius, which is why I think he gets, and he obviously did commentary as well. But people forget about Jesse Ventura on commentary. I always say, like, Jesse Ventura is as much an influence on me as a commentator as Bobby Heenan is. Like, Heenan, for me, was always one of my heroes, comedically as well as for wrestling. Jim Cornette is a huge influence on me. You know?
Yes, Mr. Food. Yeah, he's heavily involved now at the moment where I am. Jim Cornette.
Yeah, because my whole get-up is a tribute to Heenan and Cornette. I mean, the polyester style pants, the bright color pants on the bottom, and the sparkly jacket on the top. It's Heenan and it's Cornette. I said that on the Cultaholic podcast that I did, and I don't think a lot of people got to that, you know. But yeah, no, I love managing Michael, man. It's like I love managing. I love being involved. I love commentating's great and stuff like that, and I love it. I do. But if I could manage and get my hands dirty on every show, that would be more ideal for me.
No.
If you got hired by WWE tomorrow and you could pick anyone in WWE to manage, who would you pick?
Ooh, I haven't watched WWE regularly for a good while. I do check in and out. Do you know who actually might be good, and it's popped into my head, is Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura. Because I think Sami Zayn manages him now, if I'm not mistaken, in that act.
Yeah, they're all friends. Him, Sami Zayn, and Cesaro. I think they're all buddies.
Well, like I think you could pick pretty much, like, Cesaro. I think would be great. I think Nakamura would be great, and I always liked Rusev as well. I think Rusev would be good as well. Because the thing about me is that, like, I'm 6'1". I don't think people realize this. Like, I'm taller than a lot of the lads are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually quite difficult for me to be a manager because of how tall I am. Like I think I'm taller than Michael, and I don't think he'll mind me saying that, but I slouch a lot when I'm standing next to him because it's a little cheat. But when we do it in Fight Factory, Liam Ryle is so much taller than me that it's great. So like someone like Liam is great because he's so big. I think like someone like Rusev or Cesaro. I think Nakamura is maybe 6'3" as well. That I probably made a bollocks of your question there, Raven, but I think because I think Nakamura in WWE needs a manager because they have this thing about, if you don't speak English, then how can you be a star? And if you can't cut a promo, how can you be a star? Well, put him with someone. Put him with someone who can. You know.
Yeah.
You know, one example I'll use to like beat that point for like WWE, because they always do it. It's Asuka. Because like right now she's not saying a fucking word of English, but she's the most entertaining fucking thing in the world.
It's brilliant.
I was watching Money in the Bank, and she made that match, and she was just being a fucking crackhead the entire time. It was brilliant, and not a word of English came out of her mouth, but I was enthralled by it.
Yeah,
I think she's one of the most talented wrestlers, male or female, around, and has been for a long time. I think she's so fucking. She has a lot, every skill. I think she's brilliant. Big fan. Yeah. Big fan, if you're listening, which you're not. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Asuka, take our booking and book.
Yeah. Asuka and Phoenix, huh? We might sell out the circus factory, you never know. Just taking a segue away from wrestling, Tony, right? You're always a very interesting character to have a chat with, especially when you do stand-up comedy. We'll come to the questions on the stand-up comedy show on the OTT in a minute, but the hurler success for you, right?
Yeah.
3 seasons. Was it 3 seasons you did? Was it
2?
2 seasons, my apologies. Oh, and talk us through that a little bit. I mean, you out in New York and fucking just the success and then the live show. I mean, it was phenomenal success, an award-winning fucking series. Fair play to you.
Yeah, well, actually, it's actually one series, really. I had planned on doing a second series, and I did one episode we did in New York. And then I had a flirtation with having a development deal with RTE for it. And then obviously the web series had to stop because if we did eventually make the show, which we obviously didn't, it would have to come down probably, you know. So I I had planned on what was going to happen with it, and I'd written the full second episode and the outline of the rest of the season about how it would go in the second season. And obviously when the RTE thing started, which didn't come to fruition in the end due to creative differences, shall we say, I pulled the plug. But then the second season, which was only one episode, started winning all these awards as the first one had done as well. And I was like, well, it's one episode, it's a standalone.
Yeah.
But that was so what happened then after that was I kind of had a couple of, as I said to you, flirtations with a TV series through different mediums. and different production companies wanting to take it on and make it into a series. But unfortunately in Ireland, it's quite difficult to get a series on TV, especially a comedy series, because for such a funny race of people, we actually don't really do scripted comedy very well on our TV networks, at least. They're hesitant to take risks when it comes to comedy, unless they have BBC backing them, which you'll see with The Young Offenders and, you know,
Father Ted and other
Father Ted. Father Ted is, well, no, RTE, that's actually an urban legend. RTE never had Father Ted. Yeah. No, because the two lads who made it, Linehan and Matthews, were already working in the UK. They were writers on The Fast Show and a couple of sketch shows like that. And then they went straight to Channel 4 and made it. But like The Young Offenders is a co-production with BBC, so therefore they have the extra, you know, bit of creative freedom. Whereas RTE, the directive I got that if they were ever going to make my show was that they want a comedy show who a 5-year-old can watch with their grandmother and everybody in between.
Okay. Now
that's not artistically, that puts handcuffs on you, whereas, you know, you're then pandering. You're not making. No, I get that. I get it. I do get it. That's the business and stuff like that. But so I realized, look, that's never going to happen with my show. So I then said, well, maybe we can make a film. Maybe there's a film in this. Maybe there's a feature film in this. So I wrote a script for a feature film version of The Hurler, and ended up, because of Writing Home, the movie I did where I was the lead in that premiered at the Galway Film Fleadh, and it was all over the world, and it was really quite successful for what it was. And then all of a sudden I had people listen to me, oh, well, what do you want to do next? What would you like to do? And I was like, well, I want to do this. It's my own movie. And my agent shopped it around, and I got about half the money that we needed to make it, and probably could have made it for that money realistically, but would have been very difficult to convince people to work for half money, basically. So I kept kind of going, no, we get the other half, and chased. And I got sick of waiting, and I just said, you know, I'm not going to be able to play this guy forever, because I'm getting older like the rest of us are. Now I can probably play him for another 3 or 4 years, but once I hit 40 and Gar is 40, then Gar can't play hurling anymore necessarily, you know. So I said, I had written a play with a guy called Pat Daly, and I said, you know, I wrote, do you think The Hurler would work as a stage play? Because I'm not a theatre guy, so I don't think in staging, I think in camera. Yeah. And Pat said, yeah, I absolutely think you should do it on stage. I said, yeah, but how do we work it? Because it's a fake documentary in the web series, and the film is not a fake documentary. He goes, yeah, but you wrote a film. I said, yeah. He said, well, that's the story for your stage show. Why don't you do it as a one-man show? And I said, well, that's what I want to do. He said, well, why don't you tell the story of what happens in your screenplay? And that's your stage play. So I said, great, but will you help me adapt my screenplay for the stage? And he did. And then we put it on in March. We're lucky enough to get I won the playwright producers grant last year from the Waterford Arts Council to put it on. And we did it on the 5th, 6th and 7th of March. And then about 5 days later, the world ended. So
That's right. Because we get a clash, unfortunately. I had a show, Gatting with the Lads, and you were doing your live stage show on the Friday night or the Saturday night. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we couldn't go up to have a look. But
what was amazing to me was how many OTT fans travelled down from Dublin and stuff for it, and when you see stuff. Yeah, like when you see that stuff and they're sending in cans of Monster or other little gifts and stuff into the dressing room, it's that's kind of like, that's the stuff that makes you be kind of proud to be a part of wrestling, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You know you're doing something right when you're getting people to follow you in a different field, and when the people are so warm to do something like that. Do you know what? You're doing something right, and that's great to see. And more power to you. I wish you nothing but continued success in that avenue as well when the world reopens. You know.
Yeah, please God.
Yeah, absolutely. So stand up, you don't do a lot of stand up anymore, do you? Or did you? I know with the OTT stand up show, the one after this time last year. Actually, no, we're not in March anymore. Sorry, fuck, what happened there?
No.
About 4 years since March.
I know.
Yeah.
There we were in March. In my head, because we were just talking about the world ending, because nothing has happened since then except.
Except Zoom, yeah.
Are you doing a bit of is it something you want to go back to? Like it? Do you enjoy it?
So here's the thing, like, so I love stand-up. I loved stand-up comedy. But like, I never saw myself as just being a stand-up comic. You know, I never saw myself as that guy. A lot of people, that's their thing. They're a stand-up comedian, and I love it. I love performing. I love, because stand-up comedy is wrestling. Everything's wrestling, but stand-up comedy is wrestling. You're going out there as a character basically, and doing an act within this character that is Tony Kelly essentially. And I mean, I used it to kind of cut my teeth I think in the entertainment industry. I was lucky, blessed to break into the comedy business in New York and play all those massive clubs in New York and be a regular there and learn from so many great comedians. And then I wanted to kind of use that to segue into scripted comedy and stuff like that. I had my first comedy album released in 2012, P.S. I Hate You, it's called, and it's kind of about me, my experiences in my mid-20s in New York and, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would now kind of how the hurdler eventually ended up happening on stage was that I was approached by a couple of people saying, would you write a new comedy hour or whatever and tour this new stand up? And I was kind of like, well, I've done that. You know, I eventually will go back to it, but I've done that. So that's why I wanted to do the one man show and almost do stand up as Gar more as opposed to me. But the more I'm kind of sitting in this isolation, I'm kind of going, well, maybe I should write another hour and maybe tour a new show. So it is something that I'm thinking about doing, definitely.
Good stuff.
Were you saying about the OTT comedy thing there?
Yeah.
Did you say that?
I did, yeah, I did. What was that like?
Terrifying.
Did you host? No, you didn't host it. Dwayne hosted it.
No.
You I heard some stories. I don't think it's going to be ever shown. Would I be correct in
that? Mine could be shown. Mine could be. My set can be. I have my set on video. It could be shown, no problem. It was the most terrifying experience of my life because I think at the time people weren't differentiating who I was from my character I was playing in the show. They weren't different. I think they thought Tony Kelly was this, what you see on the OTT show.
So they thought it's just you were a prick in real life, basically.
Well, a lot of people would agree with that, you know. But that's.
I think you're lovely. You actually wear socks in real life, don't you?
Yeah, sometimes.
You're not wearing socks right now, are you?
I actually am.
Oh, thank Jesus.
There he is.
There you go. But I still have kind of like
for the lads.
Yeah. So no, but like I was terrified that day and leading up to it. Like Joe had asked me at the Christmas party would I be interested in doing it, and the plan was myself, Dan Barry, and Trent Seven was supposed to do it as well, actually. Yeah, and I was speaking to Trent at the last show that we had actually before all this happened, and I was slagging him, kind of saying that he chickened out, and he just went, "Yeah, I did chicken out," and I was like, "Okay, fair enough." But yeah, the idea was that, you know, just do a stand-up show. But for me, it's always difficult going and doing stand-up anyway, because it's such a difficult thing to do. But to go in front of an audience that already hates you before you open your mouth and then make them laugh was, you know, that was a task. So I kind of had this plan that I knew I'd get booed. And then when I arrived at the venue, they put me on first, which I wasn't happy about. And there was words, which is, you know, I felt like I was being sabotaged by people who were involved in the show. I wasn't happy about it, and we had the words about it, and that was fine. But I was on first, and then I came out, and I don't know if you know this, Lynchy, but my music in OTT is "Rolling" by Limp Bizkit.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, which was a setup by Joe as a rib, but so I was coming out to that. But I had my Tony Kelly jacket, my original one, and I had a T-shirt made of the jacket to wear under the jacket. And I came out like in the full garb. I had my socks on, and then my idea was that I'd come out and go, you know, get booed, and I'd have the jacket and ready to go, and I go, oh shit, that's tomorrow night, isn't it? Oh, this is a different show. Sorry about that. 1 second. And I turned my back to give the star with the bedazzled diamonds and stuff like that. Yeah. And I zipped off the jacket and I took it off, and underneath was a T-shirt version of the fucking jacket. So And it got a laugh and a pop, and I just went, there we go, that's it. They were on side because it was kind of like they knew then.
Yeah.
They were inside in the joke then, like, yeah.
They are in on the joke. And then I told a load of stories about wrestling. I did some of my acts, but I actually mostly told stories about wrestling. Like I did some CCW stories, and I talked about a show I did in New Orleans, a once-off thing that I did that was supposed to be a comedy wrestling burlesque show. It was insane, and an angle that I did with Tracy Smothers, which was electric, such a good buzz, like, almost and barely getting out of there alive. And it was just a lot of fun, to be honest with you. It ended up being a really, really positive experience. But it was honestly the most terrifying night of my life before I actually went on the stage. Terrifying.
Good stuff.
Doing like stand-up comedy seems absolutely terrifying to me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm afraid if I just in a group of friends, if I'm afraid to tell a joke sometimes in case no one laughs. Like, I can't imagine fucking doing that with like 100 people's fucking eyes on you. Like,
it is all right. But my hope coming out of all this was that I can go back to New York for a little while and do some more stand-up over there, hopefully before the end of the year. But if not, then in 2021, that's my plan anyway.
Good stuff. Love to see it, Tom. I think we had vague plans of doing before we lost the Kino, we'd vague plans of doing some sort of an event. I won't quite say a copy and paste like the OTT comedy night, but we were certainly throwing around the idea. It was Luke's idea.
I remember.
We were going to do a roast of Justy, because why wouldn't you start at the top, right?
I remember that.
And we still might do it if venues fucking pan out, but that'd be something cool.
It would be brilliant, but the thing about a roast is that you have to write the jokes, you know, that you have to. But I think there's a lot of creative people in wrestling, amazingly creative people. So I think that would really work.
Well, it was Luke's baby. Like, I'd facilitate it, obviously, you know, in Phoenix, but I'd fucking have nothing to do except shoot it and put it up on demand. As I mean, I wouldn't class myself as a comedy writer. I'd leave that to yourself and Luke and others, and Dwayne, and I'm sure Justy's comedy goal anyway. Like, and I said, be cool to be involved, and if we could get some like session mod as well, you know, the people that will
be great, man.
And is there any chance we could entice Joe into roast Justy? You know.
I don't think that would be too hard to entice, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, in public it might be. In public,
anyway, there's no script. There's no script, Joe. You can say what you want. But it's something that hasn't been done, and what we were going to do was the night before our anniversary show, and kind of a 2-night thing, and kind of keep doing that then every year. But fucking, everything's up in the air now at this point.
Tell me about that.
Just back into kind of wrestling again. Like, obviously, we have a provisional show booked for the 14th of August, right? Well, we have a date. I don't have a venue yet. Fingers crossed. Say Declan the Rosary, light a candle, everyone indoors and all that. But we wait and see. So we're hopefully to get back in action. So Tony, you kind of joined us in Phoenix from day one.
Yeah.
I remember having chats with you when we were forming Phoenix. Do you know what I mean? Throwing a few ideas away. And I think yourself and Cian formed a very good commentary team.
That's funny as well, because I think Cian only knew me from being at OTT shows, and I think he got the fight of his life that I actually took him under my wing, and you know, not to ruin any kayfabe or anything like that, but like I think I don't think he was expecting kind of the partnership.
You'd be nice.
Well, I suppose that's kind of it, yeah. But no, Cian is great, man. He's he's a good kid.
He is. He's very entertaining, and I think he was slightly starstruck on the first show. He's a wrestling fan, and then suddenly he's in there before the show's on. He's like, "Oh, this is deadly." Do you know what I mean? The wrestlers are here. You know what I mean? Like, okay, no, you're part of the show. Just relax.
No, Cian's great.
He is. So
it's fun to get Cian on this, except the problem is that both me and Cian are awkward bastards. So it might just be you talking to yourself the entire
no
time.
problem. I just do one of those ones where I'm drinking, and I might give William his own Zoom chat.
Good idea. That might work.
Over there, and we'll get something freaky deaky going. But so you joined us early days, and I think the Michael May thing suited you down to the ground, and you had a lot of fun with that.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly enjoyed it, and it's not done, obviously. In your time, we did a lot of shows. We did twice in Waterford. We kind of did. I didn't do too many shows in our first year. If there's any kind of regrets, is maybe doing one or two too many for ourselves. But like, what give us a couple of highlights from your point of view from Phoenix and just general.
Yeah, and there was a lot, to be honest with you. The one that stands out, obviously, is the Rocky Mac match with Michael, I think, in Waterford, the second Waterford show.
Yeah.
And I'm probably biased, but that show wasn't recorded, and I actually think that was probably the best show we had done.
Yeah.
At least up to that point.
Yeah, no,
and
I agree, yeah.
It was definitely my favorite match that myself and Michael participated in. That man, there was, it's not a huge venue, but the reaction for Rocky that night and how much they wanted us to go down was, it was hot. It was great. That was brilliant, man. And then Rocky took my head off at the end of it with a super kick, which was, was what it was or whatever. But I loved that. I loved myself and Michael against CT Flexor in a handicap match. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I think that was the last Kino show we did, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was so enjoyable. Both of us really enjoyed that, I think, and I think even CT enjoyed it. He probably won't admit it, but I think even he enjoyed that. But I'm lucky in so much as that, like, I get to be involved in the matches with Michael, but I also get to see everyone else's matches because I'm commentating on them as well. Man, my favorite moment that had nothing to do with myself or Michael or anything like that was actually when Raven Creed came out in the unicorn costume and took the. Man, that was the Empress final, wasn't it, with Amy and Debbie?
The anniversary show last year, yeah.
Man,
did you know that I was in that when I was out there?
No. I think I figured it out. Right before you took it off. I think, but I want to romantically say that I didn't know.
There was a total of 5 people who knew, and it was the 2 owners and the 3 girls involved in the match, including me.
I think I figured it out because it had to be you. But I remember the way you were moving, and I think you were even flossing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did a floss.
Yeah.
And I was going, it couldn't be her. It just, because not even the character of you, but the you that I know.
Yeah, me as a person doesn't know.
I don't think it's her. And I was like, but when you took, that was brilliantly executed. That angle was brilliantly executed. I loved that. Matt Schuyler had some brilliant moments as well. I'm not only saying that because of him breaking out, I think was really cool for the start of Phoenix.
Yeah.
When Ricky Graham broke the bottle off of Terry Thatcher's head in the first show. Amazing. We
only looked at that again recently. We did a kind of a watch along with our own training group, just because we've a lot of new people started over the last while, and a lot of people hadn't been there at the show or hadn't seen it. So most people didn't know. There was 2 things that they either didn't know or they'd forgotten about. 2 years later was, number one, Dark Debbie's entrance.
Amazing.
Phoenix. I actually I didn't forget about it, but I was like, oh shit, this bit. And then the smash at the end. That was really well. That was the fucking whole crowd was like, oh my god, no one's
superb. The chant of "We Are Phoenix" or whatever it was on the first night was emotional. That was lovely. And Katie Harvey's reaction when she came back as the referee for that match as well, the Empress final.
That was really nice, actually. Yeah, she said that that was her first time in front of a crowd after she fucked up her elbows, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think so,
yeah, and like, imagine the emotion for that. Like, even if you're not wrestling, like, you haven't been in front of a crowd for 9 months, and then you're just like, oh fuck, and everyone's fucking glad to see you. It must be mad.
That whole she was great. Obviously, I had her on my own podcast talking about the whole experience, and like you were in the match, Raven, that it happened, and I was on commentary. It was one of the scariest things I've ever experienced.
I actually remember that match, and I'm not making it about me. I'm not trying to do that. But everyone in the match, we continued for another like 8 or 10 minutes, just because that happened at the start of the match. But everyone in the match was like, oh fuck.
I remember, and I said it to Katie as well on the podcast. Like, I thought she was dead.
Yeah.
I legitimately
You could
thought
hear the fucking smack. It was disgusting. Like,
I can feel it in my stomach thinking about it now. But to make it more positive, and what I was kind of getting at is that Katie has been a part of two of my favorite moments that happened last year in general in wrestling, which is the reaction she got at that show.
Yeah.
When she came out at OTT to confront the Woke Queens for their bullying of CT Flexer. I didn't know she was coming out. I'd seen her backstage. No, I didn't. And I seen her backstage, and I'd seen her getting her makeup done, and I went, "Oh, Jade is doing Katie's makeup because she's here." And that's, that's kind of all I thought. And when her music hit, there's been a couple of times that I've gotten emotional on commentary for different things, but man, I lost it. It was just amazing. I tweeted something the other day, like, nothing makes you feel like music except professional wrestling. And it is kind of like, you do get moments that give you tingles, and kind of that's, I think, like, as well as the supportive thing that I said about some of the fans, when you get genuine moments that make you feel something, that's what makes me still want to be involved through stuff that's maybe not so good.
There are like moments in wrestling that does, like, it transcends, and like wrestling is real in those like particular moments of like the reaction Katie got when she come back wasn't like for the fucking character coming back. It was because Katie was coming back.
Yeah.
That was fucking real. That was fucking, and I'm sure every emotion that she was showing in that moment was real.
Man,
like,
Jordan beating Walter for the belts and
that was
Katie.
real.
Like, I've never come across anything like that in my life, and I don't watch back anything that I do or listen back to anything that I do, but I just remember that wasn't me as a character or me as a commentator at the end of that match. It was just, I was just gone. I was so invested as a fan.
You're right about what you're saying about more like a show. A match is all about the wrestling, but a show is about moments. And people, your casual fans, I know we're not casual fans, we're hardcore, well in, fucking head first, 2 feet into the industry. But fans will come away going, they'll remember 4 or 5 moments of a show.
Of course.
And if you give them 4 or 5 good moments and a good wrestling show, you've kind of done a job from a promotion's point of view. I do remember nobody else around us knew that who the unicorn was, and we were just like, I cannot wait to see, because you were just there all hugs and fucking like, this is going to be such a fucking good pop, like, do you know what I mean?
But I remember that even we were saying that it was fucking real. Like, in that moment, like, my feelings became real. I just like, and I ended up, he always fucking holds it against me, I ended up accidentally punching Matt Schuyler in the face when he was holding me back.
Yeah, I don't
it just felt so real.
But listen, look, this is what I say if anyone ever asks me about some advice about cutting a promo. Like, it has to be real. It has to be real, because if you don't believe what you're saying to me, then I certainly don't believe what you're telling me. And it has to be real. You have to believe it, even if it's not your real feelings. You have to believe what you're saying. And I don't think I've ever, maybe there's an argument there, but I don't think I've ever opened my mouth and not believed, at least in that moment, what the character of Tony Kelly was saying.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like, all my best promos, like any really good promo that I've ever done, I had to make it feel real. And like, as soon as I was done filming the promo, I don't feel okay for the next hour, because it was so fucking real, and the feelings are still there after the camera turns
bubbling inside, like,
That's it, like. But we're talking about moments and stuff like that. Like, I remember a lot of the matches I commentated on for Ravens matches for OTT were very emotional for me, because I met her when she was what were you, 15 or 16?
16, you probably met me when
probably I and to see her coming out to crowds like that as the OTT Women's Champion, and have the fans shout along to that, I'm going to hell party your music and stuff like that. Like, that's real. That's as real as it gets, for me at least, anyway, And like, I remember commentating on Martina's gaff party in the Tivoli when you did the Defiant. It was the same weekend. And Sammy Jane won the belt, if you remember. It was you, 4-way, wasn't it? It was you, Katie, Martina, and Sammy.
Yeah.
And it was my first Tivoli show, my second show ever. And I just remember thinking, like, and not to sound too markish about it or anything like that, but like, OTT is huge. It's a huge thing worldwide. Like, I'll tell you how huge it is. I was in New York Film Academy, where I went to school screening Writing Home, the movie that I made a couple of years ago. in my old film school, they asked me to come back and give a speech to the students and show the movie and do a Q&A and stuff like that. And somebody in New York knew me from OTT and came to see the movie.
That's fucking mad.
Now that's the reach that has, right? So
Yeah.
to witness a lot of the moments with you as OTT women's champion, for me, I mean, like, and this is not to do any disservice to, say, the Armstrongs who came up and worked like 1 or 2 Contender shows, but like, to come from CCW, which was, everyone knows, you know, a lot of the stuff that went on, and for me and you to be the two from that era who were, who are dining at the top table, if you want to say, in Irish wrestling, that was very real to me, to feel that.
Yeah, me too. I do remember. I remember when you first came up to do commentary, and I was like, oh my fucking god, this is class. Because now I had a CCW friend. I had someone else that was like not necessarily an outsider, but I had someone else that came from a shit place that now is kind of like a talented fucking person that's getting what they deserve. Like, you know? Yeah,
like it's. I think anyway, definitely when we were in CCW and OTT was happening, and I didn't really know what it was, but that was what you know, and it felt like very much a closed shop and something that, you know, and for people like us, we wouldn't get an opportunity because we weren't from Dublin, we didn't train up there, we didn't break in up there, and we were kind of like the like if they were Andy's ties and Tie Story, we were Spike's ties next door who had been just put together, you know. And again, and
that's but the best analogy I've fucking heard in a long time.
But it's the truth, like, and it's not to take away from the Armstrongs, because I know it didn't work out like they wanted, like, you know what I mean. They had a cup of coffee up there, and both of those boys know that I love them very much. But for myself as a non-wrestler as well, for just myself and for Raven to be the two of that crop of very talented people, that was always something that I felt really emotional about. And to be able to kind of commentate in the National Stadium, even on that Scrapper show with you as OTT Women's Champion, and me, and to think of commentating on you wrestling roughshod. But that's and again, that's not to do with the service to Mike.
Both of us came, like,
that was always very emotional for me and always meant a lot to me, you know.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, one thing I was watching, I have a hard drive there. I found a promo, Torn, from your last night in CCW, and you were doing a promo I was actually involved in it. I think it was probably one of my first promos where I didn't talk, I just stared down the camera like I shouldn't have, but nobody told me not to because nobody was producing any of this shit. It was me and Burnsy and the Woods brothers against Bingo. I'm going to say Roughshod and the Sidekicks.
Oh my god, is this the one in the gym?
You were absolute. I think you might have seen it, Raven. You were fucking bait with the flu, Tony. You could hardly stand up. I remember you traveling, and well, it wasn't your last one. It was definitely your second last show.
Yeah, it was my last show.
The last show was the one, the triple threat. Actually, no, I think.
No, my uncle died. My uncle died the day before.
Yeah.
We buried, so I didn't make that.
But this was the last. This was the last time.
It was my last show. My last show for CCW. Yeah. Other than that one off, but yeah.
Yeah. So it was coming from there. My point was coming from there in the fucking dressing room where it was just the shittest of shows of all time. Yeah. Getting back into wrestling for OTT, joining us below in Phoenix, which we're delighted to, and seeing you going from strength to strength just goes to show. Well, it's a pleasure, and it's great to fucking see it. And as Debbie would say, love to fucking see it.
Love to see it. Yeah, but that's kind of the thing that I don't like. Like, I don't want to fucking say I'm a great fan or anything like that. Like, but I respect the shit out of the wrestling business and the craft, and always have done. Like, even going back to doing my first show, and I felt like I had to go to the training sessions if I was going to appear on the show. And like going to that show that I didn't want to work at, I was having some issues with some people in CCW that weren't Lee, by the way, and didn't want to go to the show. Felt like I was being bullied by some people, a person. Still showed up to that show with the flu. You know, and even to OTT, like I think I tweeted back at my anniversary during back in March of my show. Like I remember lying to Joe and telling him that I'd be in Dublin because he was like, "Hey, it's too far away. You're coming from Waterford. It's too far." I was like, "No, I'm going to be in Dublin," and I wasn't. But I booked a hotel room and paid for a hotel room to stay overnight to do the show. And there's been so many things that I've done. I think, you know, to make it to shows. Like I got those Belfast shows, like I have to do like a 500-mile round trip or something like that. you know, and that's, I suppose I love it. Like, you know, I do love it. And like I was saying to you, like, there is a lot of stuff that I don't love about wrestling. And I've made no kind of secret of it publicly that it hasn't been great for me all the time, even over the last 6 months or so, or maybe 8 months now, you know, but it's those moments that we're talking about that make it. Well, the actual bell to bell show and performing it's a buzz. Like me walking out of that curtain for OTT. And again, this is not to take anything away from Phoenix. I'm just using it as an example.
Yeah.
And to hear, like, I can't see, because sometimes when I walk through, the spotlight comes into my eyes and I don't see, but they see me straight away. And to hear the change in, oh, here's the start of the show. Oh no, here's Tony Kelly. Boo. And to hear that, or when Angus McAnally hands me the microphone and I strut into the middle of the ring and that atmosphere changes, man, that's a buzz like you're never going to feel anywhere else. Like, I don't feel that when I go out to do stand-up. I actually didn't feel it in my one-man show. Now walking out in your hometown to a standing ovation is wonderful. Or like, even like in my acting career, I did a show for Netflix back in October, and that was amazing. But it's still not walking out in front of 2,500 people in the National Stadium and booing you.
Yeah.
There's something about it, man. There's something about it. Now, I
You
don't know
do
what
have a
kind of
good
a
act.
person.
You have an actor. I mean, I don't mean this in a bad way, but unfortunately in Dublin and in OTT, a lot of the times they don't allow heels be heels. They just, everybody's get cheered. But there's a couple of people that doesn't work for, or that like
No,
definitely. And the other one is,
say that again. Sorry.
you're definitely one of those people that can get over as a heel, rather than just everyone get over because everyone just wants to cheer for everybody, because it's such a
Well,
fan.
I will say this, and this might be controversial, but I don't care. I don't necessarily mean wrestlers, but some people want to be everyone's pal and everyone's friend, and like my tweets, and give me a high five while I walk through the crowd. No, you're a fucking heel. Do your fucking job.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily mean the wrestlers. I'm just talking about people in general. I'm not talking about anyone in particular. My job is to be the bad guy announcer and to get booed. That's my job, right? Yeah. So I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
You know, and if someone asks me for a picture after the show, they're getting a picture with Tony Kelly from the show, because that's what for me, that's what they paid to see. That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting booked to be. I'm not getting booked to suck up to people and to, I'm a bad guy. But really, I'm sound. Will you give me a high five and follow me on Twitter? No. Here's your entertainment. This is what you paid to see. If I get paid to play a bad guy in a film or in a TV show or something like that, I'm not going to be a bad guy half-arsed. I'm a bad guy, but I'm really sound. Let's have a few cans together. I'm sound. Let's all get together and have a party. No.
Yeah, no. I think you're not a young fella. Me and you have been around the block a couple of times. You have that level of maturity that knows what their job is. Maybe other people mightn't, because they're still young in the business or whatnot. Or
I think people are afraid to be booed, and maybe there's something wrong with me deep down, that I want people to not like me. And like I don't know. I think maybe I have always thought about this, like, what kind of person wants to be in a show and wants people to boo them, and and I think there's got to be some sort of psychological thing there where it's like, maybe it's a fear of rejection, and if I get you to hate me, I'm choosing you to hate me rather than you're not deciding not to like me. I don't know, but I just
you're really psychoanalyzing yourself. You okay, hon?
No, I'm not. I just think that if you're, and I mean this like from the WWE downwards.
No.
If your job is to get booed, don't just do it.
I think that, like, I completely agree with you. I really do.
Yeah, so
but I do think that it's a lot harder to be an actual heel kind of nowadays, like with internet and with fucking everything, because like the whole thing of like kayfabe is dead.
If you want it to
obviously
be,
then that ruins it. But if you want it to be, exactly, but like people are posting like heels, like horrible heels, might be posting like a photo with their family at the beach or something like that, and they're just putting that on their own fucking public Instagram, and they're allowed to do that, but then that kind of ruins the aura of like, this is a horrible person, and then people kind of, but I don't know, I just think that it's a bit harder. And as well, the thing is, like, in OTT, all the fans are so like like OTT for fans will cheer you if you walk out to the ring and take a shit. You know what I mean? Like
Not Tony
they
Kelly,
just
not
want
me.
to be
MJF,
supportive.
and not Grizzled Young
know?
Vet. They're the three. They're the three that I've seen in Ireland.
Who was the third?
Sorry, Grizzled Young Vets
Grizzled
Yeah.
Vets, yeah.
and MJF. They're fucking heels for life. OTT or no OTT. There's like
Yeah,
they will get
to be fair.
that reaction, and they're fucking professional as the day is long.
Yeah, and I think that's what like I think I don't have t-shirts to sell, so it's maybe easy for me to say that, but I think if your job is to be the bad guy commentator, then be the fucking bad guy commentator and take the heat. I mean, when we did the stadium show, that Star bet Devlin for the belt, I got into a fight with a fan while I was walking backstage. The ring was being taken down, but I got into a verbal confrontation with a fan, and you know what? He came up to me, or was it? I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is now he has a story to tell after the show. He's still getting his money's worth. The show is over. The bell rang, the ring's been taken down, and he still got healed off somebody. You know what I mean? He gets to go and go, I gave that Tony Kelly fella, you know, I gave it to him. Brilliant. There you go. There, you know, and I see that as that's my job to do that. You know,
until the car door closes and Tony Kelly has left the building. Tony Kelly. Come on.
And I love it.
We'll take a little break here. We'll call this the end of part 2, and we'll be right back with a couple of more chats and the infamous brawl for all that Tony Kelly's going to book for us.
I forgot about that.
Boom. Okay, lads, back to the part 3, final part. Before we get on to the brawl for all time, big sports fan, as I can see behind you, right? Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
We won't get into talking about the Premiership because I'm only going to start crying, and you know, nobody wants to see me cry again. Are you a football fan? NFL?
Gaelic football.
No,
NFL. Well, I'm obviously, I think I don't make any secret. I'm a huge Liverpool fan. I'm in my dad's Liverpool room recording this. I have a season ticket for Anfield. You know, I used to be a big NFL fan. I'm a Jets fan, which is not great. Yeah, I know that. I always slag you about that. I'm way more of a casual fan than I used to be now.
Right.
I don't know why. I used to love it. I think maybe because I was maybe living there full time. Yeah. I really got into it. I've kind of been an NFL fan since about 2002, before I even went to America.
Yeah.
And I always loved New York even before I went there. And they have the Jets and the Giants, obviously, and the Giants were wearing blue, and I associate that with Everton, even though I'm from Waterford. So I went, I'll be a Jets fan instead, because I can't follow a team in blue, even though I follow Waterford FC. But anyway, I still am a casual viewer, but wouldn't be as passionate about it as I was. I still should be following it. But you're a Man United fan who follows the Patriots. What a shocker.
But then again, I balance it off because I follow I'm a big baseball fan as well, and I'm following.
Who do you like?
The Yankees.
You're a Yanks fan, right? Okay.
Yeah. So when I went over to see Barnsley in Canada a couple of years back, it was fucking while he was off cleaning skyscrapers, I was watching the playoffs. The Yankees were beat the Houston Astros and all that kind of stuff. So
there's a Yankees pendant in here somewhere, and there's a Yankees bear right there that I'm looking at, because obviously New York. I was I lived in New York when they won the World Series in 2009. It was amazing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Nice. I have a Yankees hat somewhere as well, but it got destroyed. It was one of the old school Yankee hats. I got it in Lids over in San Diego. But, and one of the really old school, it was when they were kind of green pinstripes. It's class. Yeah. I fucking think got destroyed. Anyway, I digress. Sorry for boring it, Raven, in our sports chat. But I know
nothing about sports. I'm sorry. I'm literally in a college sport.
I'm just trying to get a flavour for.
I was going to say.
I'm going to get a flavour.
No, I recently wrote one of my final college assignments was detailing a session plan for an elite soccer team. I don't even know the fucking rules of soccer.
Well, I guess I was going to say you're studying sports. What is it like? And you're a professional athlete essentially, and you don't like sports, but you are a sports.
Well, it's not that I am a sports. I have qualifications in coaching. I am a sport.
Yeah.
I have qualifications in coaching, athletics, and hurling. I can't even. Do you know that thing that they do where they roll the ball and they pick it up with the hurley? Can't do that.
Yeah, you're a coach. That's when they roll the ball at the hurley.
I have a show called The Hurler. I played one hurling match in my life when I was 10, and I scored a goal with my left foot.
Nice.
There you go.
I don't know.
But,
I feel like I could probably get into like American sports, like fucking American football, like you were just on about, or baseball or something like
Football
that.
is
yeah, love
Like
it.
I feel like they're a little bit more like they're a little bit more American about it. You know what I mean?
You know what? Baseball is great when you're in a pub watching it with people, so you can kind of just check in the background. I find it
Well,
very.
baseball looks boring as fuck if you were to actually go to an event, like. But I'd say in a pub would be fun, yeah.
It's. I like baseball on that level, and American football is just amazing. Like I was also there when the Giants won the Super Bowl against the Patriots in
Oh,
January
cool.
of 2012.
That helmet catch.
That's it,
American
man.
football is just a bunch of like 250-pounders running headfirst into each other, giving themselves like concussions. Like that sounds fun as fuck. You know?
There's a joke in that I'm not going to touch due to the wrestling connection.
So
I was gonna
basically,
say,
right?
ask Aaron Hernandez how fun it was.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
Fucking hell. Yeah, so we do this thing. We book the Irish Brawl for All. So we'd like your thoughts. UFC fan? I mean, do you watch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always been a big UFC fan. Ruined somewhat by the emergence of a certain scumbag from Dublin, and the fan base he's brought with him. But
Is that a controversial opinion anymore that Conor McGregor's a scumbag, or is everyone just kind of like accept
I
it?
will tell you how it's not controversial anymore, because we had an OTT show in Tala. You were definitely working on it, last summer, and I was trying to get some heat by saying how embarrassing that we had. I think, what was I trying? Oh, Maxer was working Jordan, and I was trying to big up Maxer in the promo. And I said how disgraceful it is that we've no Irish sporting heroes here. There was a Women's World Cup this year and Ireland got knocked out straight. Oh no, Ireland weren't even in the thing. And then I said something else, and then I referenced the fact that Conor McGregor is an absolute disgrace, and the pop could have lifted the roof off the building.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So if
I'm
they're
fucking
cheering me.
I'm very.
That's nice that that's accepted. That people don't actually think that he's a fucking national hero anymore. They just accept he's a fucking scumbag who has a great taste in suits.
Yeah, exactly. No, I would have been a massive UFC fan back in the day, and she kind of got into it watching it with my uncle and stuff like that, because he was a big jiu-jitsu and judo player.
Yeah.
So that kind of got me into it back early 2000s. Maybe used to rent a lot of the videos from the
Yeah.
stores.
I'm watching a lot of old school UFC as well. I saw Conor McGregor fighting in the National Basketball Stadium before he was ever in UFC in Cage Wars, and
Cage Wars.
New York to Madison Square Garden to see him win the double belts. I'm so disappointed that he was a fucking hero of mine previous to all this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fucking.
Well, to steal a quote from Bill Shankly, if he was fighting at me back garden, I'd close the curtains.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But and just before we got to the broad front, what my question was revolved. I just watched a highlight package for a UFC documentary that they're doing on Stephen Bonner and fucking Griffin. Not Griffin. Fucking what's his name? You know the one I'm talking about. The UFC Ultimate Fighter 1 final.
Forrest Griffin.
Griffin and Stephen Bonner. Yes, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I've actually seen Forrest Griffin's dick in person.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we went to. I was in Vegas in December of 2010, I think, and we kind of blagged our way into Extreme Couture's gym. Myself and my buddy Spud, and it was Frankie Edgar and Gray Maynard were fighting each other, which is a legendary fight. Now they fought, I think, 3 times. I think it was the second of their 3 fights, and we were in watching Gray train for that fight, man, which was amazing. And Forrest Griffin was in working out as well, and he took the time for us, especially when he heard the Irish accents, and gave us all the time in the world. And then we came down, we watched him work out. Then he went for a shower, came down in his towel, and gave us a shout, and then showed us his dick.
Yes, what a legend, Griffin.
There you go, man.
All right, so listen, we get into this. What we need to do is just anyone on the island qualifies for this, and the only one that we allow in as any kind of an import is Mr. Billy Ever himself, because he has Irish parents and an Irish passport. So give me your 8. We go match 1, match 2, match 3, match 4, all the way down.
I've actually watched a couple of these in preparation for because I didn't know this was going to be a thing, and then I actually forgot again. But I'm disappointed nobody picked me yet to fight in any of these. But then again, intimidation is a factor.
This is true.
Yeah. True.
This is true.
Be unfair, to be honest, wouldn't it?
I think so. I mean, it would ruin a lot of people's reputations to get beaten up by a commentator.
Yeah.
6'1" though, in fairness to you. But
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
I haven't
was
done mine
15,
yet, so I'll
so.
bear that in mind. Yeah, okay, let's go.
Okay. Well, the very first person that comes straight into mind is Scotty Davis. I'd have to have him in there
Yeah.
because he's the shooter first of all, and he's been known to double leg a couple of fellas in public if they get out of line.
Scotty
Yeah,
Pilsbury.
heard that. Yeah.
I don't think he'd mind me even say, like, you know, I just know for the fact that if anyone gets out of line, he's the kind of guy you want at 18 or 19 years of age, backing you up.
Jesus, yeah, absolutely. What a young like for you. I can't believe he's only that age. He's been on for so long. Go on.
Isn't that weird that he could probably beat up like 99% of the people on this island, and he's younger than me, and I'm young as fuck, you know?
Yeah.
That annoys me.
Yeah. It annoys me as a man that I know that a 19-year-old.
Yeah,
That's worse.
doesn't annoy me as an old man. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that sucks.
No.
Okay, so these are all against each other. This is the way I have to do it.
Yeah. Let's go through a round by round.
So second pick is against your first pick.
Yeah. So I need an opponent for Scotty.
All right. See, my issue when I do anything like this is that something will come into my head, right? And then I can't get that out of my head to think of, like that doesn't suit, but yet I can't stop thinking about that thing. So hang on, let me. So Scotty Davis against Ballymun Bruiser.
Okay. We love her.
That would be
You love her.
that'd be a right fucking scrap.
And I'll tell you why I'm doing that. It wasn't my initial thought, but the reason why I'm doing that is because Scotty and Bruiser had a match, or I don't know whether it was part of a tag match or whatever, in Phoenix. I wish I could remember. Obviously, I see a lot of
Face four-way.
Was
it
it
a four-way?
Yeah.
When that was like the second show, was it? Maybe.
Second show, yeah.
Do you know who else was in the match?
LJ maybe?
LJ
and Steve, I think LJ and Steve, because we had to do a gimmick with Steve, who was injured.
Correct. And Bruiser was doing his usual, where he was trying to light up Scotty with his chops. And you could see the part of the match where Scotty went, I'm not having this. And just started laying in kicks. Just started laying proper kicks.
Yeah.
Bruiser.
Yeah.
And it was funny. It really made me laugh, and I still think about it now because, if Bruiser's a vet, he's been around a long time, and Scotty was 17 at the time and just went, nah, not having this, and just started kicking back. So I think that would be a good fight and a good match in a brawl for all.
It would. Who's won over? Scotty Davis versus Bruiser?
Or do you want to do the first, all the qualifying matches kind of first and then go on to the semi-finals, or?
It's your call. You're booking it. I'm only facilitating it.
Well, what way do you usually do it? I don't care.
We've done them both ways.
Okay, but I think youth will be on the side here. I think Scotty would. Oh, purely because of youth, I think, and exuberance.
I think if Bruiser didn't catch him early,
yeah, that's what I mean. I think
he'd be fine. Yeah. Otherwise, if you did catch him, it's lights out. But
I agree. But I think the Scotty would be sprightly, double leg, I think, and obviously in a brawl for all, it's not all about getting knocked out. You could get choked out or something as well. So exactly. Okay, so Scotty's true. Next one. And also, by the way, a good wrestler will always be the good striker. We know that.
Yep, there you go. Boom.
Okay, so I think Liam Ryle is the one who came into my head a second ago when I was thinking about Scotty. Because Liam used to do some karate or kickboxing or something like that as well before he bulked up. So that would make him a dangerous individual, I think.
Plus he's and a dangerous individual anyway.
A big dude, yeah. See, if this was a private conversation that we were having, I'd say someone that I hate and want Liam to tear the face off him. I'm not going to do that because I'm such a great politician.
If you can mind read, I have it written down, but in here.
No. To be honest with you, like there's a couple of people, so you wouldn't know. I'm only messing. Who would I actually? So hang on, Liam Ryle. Who would be a good opponent for Liam Ryle, though, I think? What about Nathan Martin?
Ooh. Okay. Why?
Because I'll tell you what it is with Nathan just will not back down from anybody.
Okay.
Like I think it was against the Lucha Bros, and he was in a chop off with Pentagon, I think, and he was just like, Nathan was getting hit very, very hard, I suppose, and just kept coming back. And I think that's kind of like part of why Nathan is kind of like what he is, the psycho or whatever, you know. Tenacity is the word I'm looking for. And I kind of like the idea of a big man, little man dynamic as well.
Good stuff.
So who do you think wins?
Nathan versus.
I think Liam would
Liam.
win, but I think it would almost blow Liam up or almost kill Liam to keep Nathan down.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to bear that in mind. A half-injured Liam Royal is in the semi-final. We won't Scotty
There you
versus
go.
Liam. We leave you pick your semi-finals when we.
That's exactly what I'm kind of setting up here.
Okay. Next one.
Okay. Well, see, it's funny, like, because I should have had this prepared and I didn't. But like, when you're trying to think of people,
It's better when you know who has it prepared.
You're gonna leave people out then, you know.
Basically, whoever you don't say in this, you immediately think they're a little bitch. You immediately hate. You immediately think that they're a fake wrestler.
But you also have to remember that I just said what a great politician I am. So anyone I'm leaving out, I actually love and don't want to offend you in any way, shape, or form, because that's me all over.
So you don't like Scotty, who you already put in. Basically.
No. If I put them in, I like them because, as I said, I wouldn't mention somebody. I'm the kind of person who, if I don't like somebody, I can't even say their name. So there you go.
Love a politician. Jesus, this is brilliant.
I think everybody's had Phil Biden there, so I'm in between whether to put Phil. Yeah, because I think that's quite obvious, and Phil is a tough bastard anyway. I remember when we did that Limerick show where we did that angle with Steve Savage and the G Train, Graham McCormick. Graham's a great guy, actually. I remember I got involved in that to kind of break it up, and Phil screamed in my face, man, and I'm not afraid of many men despite my appearance, and that was scary.
That's something I regret we couldn't do with schedules, and by the time schedules matched, it was too late to do it.
It was over, yeah.
We were going to do a semi kind of a brawl fucking between McCormick and Phil. We were going to do a match, whether it was going to be a boxing match or a wrestling match or just a shoot match. We were going to do something, and both parties were really keen to do it, and it would have been, the storyline around it would have been really cool. But just fucking schedules just couldn't match up. One was training professionally to be a boxer, or is a professional boxer, and then the schedules for Phil couldn't work either. So we were like, that would have been a really cool angle.
Would have been great. That was a lot of heat behind that as well. It was great.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm
trying to think of people that haven't, because I think like a lot of people have said Justy as well, and Justy's a hardy bastard, and Phil and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to leave people out that just try to make it a little bit different. And okay, I have one. You like this one, didn't you? Right? So Bedlam Billy Lynch.
All right.
Against Dan O'Burns.
Hey, battle of the small man.
Battle of the bald men and the battle of the scum of the south.
Yeah. Scum of the south implode.
I think that would be an interesting matchup.
Told you.
Yeah, I think you'd take him, but I think it would be a situation. I think it would be a situation where it'd be like the Nathan Martin and Liam Royal situation. I would think Burnsy would need to be made. You'd need to make sure that he's not getting back up.
Yeah. You really have to kill him.
Yeah, and he'll laugh at that, I think, as well.
Is Bedlam going to win this now because you're a politicking bastard?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say so. I'm just happy to be out of the first round.
My only politics that I do agree with is trying not to name names when I'm getting passionate about stuff. That's all. That's
I've been close a few times on this as well, to being like, and this fucking person in this fucking 1K scenario. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's my only. That's the only politicking that I actually do, is not outwardly saying someone's name. Okay, so how many matches?
Who's the most overrated wrestler in Ireland?
In Ireland?
Don't actually answer this.
No, that would be cause for a dismissal, I would have thought.
Yes.
Yeah. So you won last. You won last first round.
Last-
Two more wrestlers.
Two more wrestlers. Okay. Let's have a little think here now, right? Was that the most Waterford I've ever sounded, by the way, when I just said that?
I love that.
Yeah, I thought so.
I don't do my Tony impressions when you're around, see, so.
It's the worst impression. Right, okay, so Lynchy thinks he can do a Tony Kelly impression, and it's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. It's terrible. It's not a good impression. And look at her laughing there as if it's funny, like.
No, I remember once we were coming back from a Dublin show. Like, I don't know why, you must have like drove me up to the tea or something like that. And we were coming back, and it was around 2 a.m. and both of us were just like delirious and trying to keep each other awake. And we started doing impressions of you for some reason.
Oh, I
But
love
like
that.
in my impression, you had like a foot fetish. And, like I was
And
just doing
I hate feet.
but like I was just doing a shit Waterford accent, just talking about how like I want to suck on someone's toes.
Oh, I hate feet.
Like it's just that bullshit at like 2 a.m. that like has you like obsessively laughing. You know that laugh when you like your stomach hurts a bit.
You've told me this story before, and I remember how hot I got about it as well. I got really hot about that, and I think mainly because
Bedlam, though, you did.
yeah, you're the one who broke the news to me about all this, and but I remember you telling me that about the foot thing, and like I that's actually have to turn on my stomach even think I can't look at my own feet. I hate. I have like a really aversion to it. It's disgusting.
I think Luke told you, but why does he do it? Why does he do it? And you came out the back to me, and I was doing something, and you were like, "Aren't you doing an impression of me? Do it." I'm like, it's like no.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't. Who the fuck can I put into this?
Last two.
Some hardy bastards in Ireland. Someone who you wouldn't want to punch off of, basically. Like.
Do you know who I'm going to put in? I'm going to put Carl, CT Flexor. That's who I put in.
Okay.
Carl is a hardy bastard, and there's a famous story that took place on a Phoenix show that I'm definitely not allowed to tell on a public podcast, that he had a run-in with a certain person who, actually, I can tell the story if I don't name who the person is, Lynchy, can't I?
Yeah, sure. Doesn't really.
There was a problem that happened in a match, and I'm not even going to tell the story. It's just one of the best lines I've ever heard in my life. And the line goes, I wasn't there because I was commentating, but I was told by several people that there was a little bit of, like it happens in the ring, there was a little bit of a back and forth, and it was fine after this. But someone said something about, you want to learn how to work, to Carl, and Carl said, what the fuck are you talking about? My work is as tight as your grandmother's knickers.
Yeah.
And that is the best line I've ever heard in my life. I love Carl anyway, but like that is one of the best lines ever. But I think Carl is a hardy bastard. I'd like to see him in this.
And facing Carl, last spot in the Tony Kelly Brawl for All.
What kind of person and friend and manager would I be if I didn't put Michael in this?
Oh yes.
Gotta put Michael over at every opportunity.
There you go. Well, you have an opportunity to put him over CT Flexor right now, Tony Kelly.
I think again, it's a situation like what we said earlier with Bruiser and Scotty. I think if Carl didn't lay in, get Michael on the jaw or something like that, I think Michael would wrestle Carl into submission.
So we've got Scotty, Liam Royal, Billy Bedlam, and Michael May in the semi-finals of the Brawl for All.
Actually, I want to tell another funny. I love Carl so much, right? So, like, I managed rough stuff in OTT for a couple of shows, right? And the first, I had forgotten he was working as CT Flexor, and I remember him as Carl Bull O'Reilly, right?
Yes.
And I just completely forgotten. I'd completely forgotten. So it was him and Paul Scarf against Martina and Paddy Morrow. But by the way, Paddy Morrow, man, there's a guy I'd love to manage. Paddy Morrow, man, I love him first of all, just personally, but like the best worker that this island has ever produced, in my opinion. Best seller, the psychology, man. Paddy Morrow is so underrated, just unbelievable. But Paddy came back. And I remember, man, I'll never forget the pop from when he appeared on the screen that time, because he hadn't been around for a while. to join up with Martina and wrestle rough stuff when they were acting as my muscle. So I remember I was at ringside shouting, "Come on, Carl! Come on, Carl!" like during the whole match, because I'm very vocal and stuff like that during a lull in the match. And he came back to me backstage. He was legitimately hot. Like it was a great match. It was it was such a hot angle. And he came back and I was like, "That was great. Oh my God." He was like, "My name is fucking CT. I'm not wrestling as Carl anymore. You fucking idiot." And and to this day, he knows, like, if I see him backstage, or I go, "All right, CT, I've never made the mistake of calling him Carl, even outside of the ring." Again, so funny, man. He's such a funny guy. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So where we're at with the semi-finals then?
So Scotty and Liam in one semi-final, myself and Michael May in the other. Is that the way you want to leave that?
Yourself, you and Michael, and Scotty, and fuck.
Or you can mix that up. You can mix it up. You're booking it.
I'd like to see Michael and Liam because of the whole relationship.
Maybe you want to keep that for the final, no? If they get through.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think Michael May has a chance of beating Billy Bedlam.
That's part of it as well, yeah.
You don't need to politic. It's okay.
But here's the thing: like, I want to see you. I want to see you're stepping on my punchline that I'm setting up here the whole way through. See, the reason why I need to see you and Scotty in the semi-final is because I need to see him suplex you again 20 times in a row.
While I'm knocked out, is it?
You're unconscious, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've heard that version of the story, but yeah, I heard he gave you like 15 or 16 German suplexes in a row.
Well, what version of it? I'm interested to know. There was a couple of different versions of the story.
No, I obviously watched the other podcast.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I heard you referencing it, but all I'd heard is that you had a match and he gave you a load of German suplexes. There was no real more to it. Like.
Yeah. Some people said that I was knocked out after 3 and he kept German. Who does that? Is this Bedlam's revenge that I get to?
No, the only time I've seen you get knocked out is when Bruiser clotheslines you in Waterford.
Yeah. It's like, Bruiser get backstage. There's a lot of people I'd like to knock out. You're not one of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So me and Scotty.
You and Scotty, yeah, and Michael and Liam. It's a good job this is only fun and games and no one really gives a shit, isn't it? I see a lot of this is all dependent on whether someone lands a shot or not, you know what I mean?
Well, I tell you for a fact, if I don't headbutt somebody in the first if I don't headbutt Scotty Davis in the first 10 seconds, I'm out. I'm done.
That's what I think the same thing as well. Yeah, no, I don't throw me head. I never have done. But unless I think I'm kind of the same as you, that if I land,
I'm a hurler. Like I was playing G8 till I was 30 odds. Like that's my back.
Yeah.
I'm a fucking hurler, like with grass stains on my pants. I'm not a.
My thing has always been if they don't go down when I hit them first, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's always.
I just write Scotty down here. It's okay.
No. There's no hesitation. I do think he would take you.
Absolutely.
If you didn't land. If he didn't
just
land
happy to get
first.
to the semi-final. So me and Liam is the real one we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's a really difficult one, I think, because again you're looking at a wrestler versus now Michael is well able to strike as well. His chops are fucking lethal apparently. I'm luckily enough I haven't felt one, but yeah, I was coming into it going I think Michael would take Liam, but now the more I'm thinking about it. Although I say that Liam would be in bits after fighting Nathan.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
That's a big fucking variable right there.
Yeah. I think Michael would take Liam in wrestling wise. I think he would wrestle him down. But then you're dependent on I think after coming out of that. So
we're seeing a legit 100 final.
Yeah. That's what I wanted originally.
Yeah. Not a complete reunion. We're not a complete reunion.
Just 2 members of Legit 100. The other person's not there.
Was there a third? Oh.
Yeah, there was.
Not anymore.
So Scotty versus Michael May.
So tempted right now. So holding my tongue. Yeah, no, I saw he put himself in some Twitter hot water with me before over something silly he tweeted, so I don't really give a fuck about that.
Who's this?
The other member of Legit 100 that isn't
Oh,
Michael
okay.
or Scotty. You've just distracted me there now, Lynchy. You've distracted me with thoughts of rants.
So Scotty versus Michael May, the fucking the All Ireland final, Croke Park. Do you know?
Man, in fairness, right, beyond anything else, right, beyond any laughing and joking, how great of a just a shoot like wrestle. You know, like when Lesnar and Kurt Angle, that famous story, like that. How great would that be just as the grapple? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have to put Scotty over, lads.
Why? Why do you think he'd win?
What if you interfered in the match? But
see, this is it. Like, these are my two.
Shoot wrestling for fuck's
no,
sake.
but this is my
distract him.
These are my two finishes. I think.
Good.
I think, you see, Scotty, like, is a tough little bastard, right? And I've heard stories of him double-legging guys outside chippers and stuff like that, right? For getting cheeky with different people, right? He loves all that. Then he's also like a proper gold medalist freestyle amateur champion, like. Do you know what I mean? And it's very difficult to forget about that. Michael is obviously the technician. It's brilliant. But I think if you put a young fella from Finglas who's willing to double leg lads outside of chippers and dig the face off him, that's adding another level to the wrestling level.
Yeah.
But then again, that's why I didn't put Phil Boyd or Justy in this, because it would have just been a Phil Boyd and Justy actual scrap in the final. And God knows who the fuck wins that.
That's something I want to see, to be honest with you.
Love to see it.
Well, there's a couple of shoot fights I'd like to see, but most of them involve me and other people.
I was just about to make that exact joke. Holy shit.
There you go. There you go.
Go on,
So
who do you want to fight now?
are we finalising on Scotty?
Yeah.
Boom. Tony Kelly's Brawl for All champion, Scotty Davis. I think that's 2 Scotty winners, is it? Correct.
I think so.
Yeah.
See, I find it hard to look past wrestlers always, even when I watch UFC. I love a wrestler. But I also find it hard to look past, like, when it comes to street fighting.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to someone who has the balls to put it up to someone, that's it. Like, it's all well and good saying, like, I'll dig the head off you, but when there's someone, like, I know for a fact that Scotty has stood up for people in the street, say, and like dealt with issues, and that's a tough
real life experience thing. Like
it is a real life experience, and unless you've been in a fight, legit. I'm not talking about, oh, we're in the ring and things got a bit heated. I'm talking about being on the street with someone. Someone starts and you give them a fucking smack in the chops. That's experience that you can't teach that, as Enzo Amore would have said.
Yeah, you can't teach that. And on that note, we're going to end this absolutely fucking enthralling conversation, Tony. It was a pleasure having you on. It's a pleasure seeing you. It's been too long since, obviously, with fucking all this fucking quarantine, we haven't seen anybody. But looking forward to getting hopefully the things back on track in August, and if not in August, it'll be September, I'm sure of it. And you know what? It's always a pleasure spending some time with you. So thanks very much for doing it. And
Love that.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks for having me. And Miss Raven Creed, it was very good to see and speak to you as well. I haven't seen you for ages, girl.
Lovely to catch up with you, to be honest.
Come here, I tell you, how can we end this? Do the Tony Kelly impression, Lynchy.
I can't do it in front of you, and
how on earth? Hang on a second. How on earth are we going to do a podcast with me on it, or a video cast, or whatever you call this, right? Reference the impression, talk about how hot I got about it, and you don't do the impression.
Yeah, do it. Talk about how much he likes toes. Do it.
Please don't do that.
Why? But why do I like toes, Emma? Why? That's the thing. Luke, why is he doing it? Put it into context, Luke. I don't know. Lynchy, come here to me. Why are you doing the impression? Sorry, I know it's not great.
I'm not from Cork.
I know.
But here's the thing, right? Miss Creed said that she did an impression on me as well, so you do it.
I literally can't.
She just said she was doing it.
How'd you do it? How do I do it? All right, go on. Tony. 1 second, sorry, I'm trying to get the name. Tony. Can you just say your name in like a promo way?
Tony Kelly.
Tony Kelly. Tony Kelly. I love Thomas Lynch. Nah, I can't do it.
Do you know what though, right?
It's worse than mine.
No, I was actually going to say, right, the way she said Tony, at least she went Tony, like it's Tony.
Yeah.
Right? At least that was a better effort than a Cork accented Tony Kelly, who's clearly so insecure about everything and has to go, but why? But why?
That's because
Okay, then that means
I know.
I'm referencing what you said to Luke. But why does he do it, Luke? Why? And then you came outside the door to me. You do an impression of me. I want to hear it. And I'm like,
can you do an impersonation of one of us or just a Cork person?
I did my Lee Cahalane earlier on in the thing.
Yeah, that was brilliant.
But I think everyone does a Lee Cahalane. Like it's
we've so much ammunition.
Yeah, like would you go out and tell the kids to get out, bud?
Yeah.
I'm a heel. I'm a heel. I can't do it like.
My favorite quote is. Sorry, go on.
Sorry. No, go on. All I was going to say was my favorite line he's ever done is when he worked a match, that show that I went and came back for one show, and he came back through the curtain, and Justy tells his story always, and he looked over at Justy, and he had that sleeveless top that he wore, and his belly was hanging out of it, and he goes, "Well, Justy, what do you reckon? Like Ric Flair?"
Yeah, I was going to reference the same impression because Justy doesn't do a very good Lee impression, but he does a funny Cork impression. Justy, do I look like Ric Flair? Don't I?
Ric Flair. I should work on my Bedlam impression. Actually, I think that would be interesting and a welcome turning of the tables.
It's once you know, Tony, it's done out. It's not anything that only love.
William.